Okay, so this section is about the early sugar refineries in the city, and it's called By Blood and Bone Black because it describes it gets the idea that these early refineries were really dirty places. They often they used animal blood and egg albumin to purify or clarify the sugar, and they were often known as smear houses because of all of the cooking and the residual charcoal that would get on the faces of the workers when they would leave the refining plants. So this is sort of the American version of the Diderot plates that are behind me. This is 18th century Philadelphia sugar refining. And so there are some objects we've gathered together to describe that. This display case came from our folks. It's a pie case from the late 19th century. And inside you'll actually see one of the earthenware sugar forms or sugar molds we borrowed from the New Jersey Department of Transportation. And this was excavated on the New Jersey side of the Delaware River front. You can actually see the little hole in the bottom where the sugar would, the impurities would drip out, the molasses, so to speak. And so this was a larger industrial mold made for wholesale sugar loaves. Again, you'll see smaller versions of those loaves of the size made for retail sale. This one's wrapped in a traditional blue paper, tied up with jute. And then down below, these objects borrowed from the Philadelphia Museum of Art show how a shopkeeper that would have sold sugar loaves might have used it to cut it up. When you go to buy coffee at a coffee shop or a roastery, they'll often ask you, do you want it whole bean or do you want it ground? Well, it's the same with sugar. You could have bought it in the loaf form, but that would have required having a pair of nippers in your kitchen. And if you didn't have the nippers, or if you wanted it ground for immediate use, they would have cut it off, perhaps using a fancy sugar cutter here. This is American or European, probably German made, circa 1780. Beautiful tooling on the top of the blade there, and you can just make out a little acorn finial there at the end. This is a mortar pestle. It was used not just in pharmacies, but also used to pulverize sugar. So once you had it in the kind of the block form, you would have crushed it up using a mortar pestle. So this is an American made of walnut and circa 1790 or so. Okay, in this photograph you get a sense of the hogsheads and the volume of sugar that was coming into the Delaware ports. This is circa 1870, right here in Philadelphia, and these hogsheads would have been quite heavy, heavier than a keg of beer, maybe twice as heavy, you can imagine. Hundreds of pounds. It needed to be moved, and so this hand truck dates from the early 20th century, and this came out of Weber's Candy Kitchen in South Jersey from our collection. Book here shows the Chinese sugar cane and sugar making. This dates from 1857. Essentially what was happening was Chinese and Indian indentured servants were coming over for 3 to 5 years at a term and working their transport to the New World off by working in the sugar plantations. And this was happening at the time where slavery was on the outs, and so the Chinese were bringing their own tradition of sugarcane harvesting and production to the New World.